We have some meaningful golf to talk about. Feels like it's been forever since you've been gone. Please come back home. We've got the President's Cup this weekend. Team USA versus the international team. Looks a little different than it did 2 years ago in terms of the players, but still should be a fun watch. Hopefully it's a little closer than it's been in the past. We'll get into all that. We've got a weather report. We'll talk about the golf course. We'll talk about the teams, and we'll give you our picks and predictions. All right, let's tee it up. We have some good golf this weekend. I'm looking forward to not only playing golf with you, we're going to be playing out at Whistling Straits, the Irish course, Black Wolf Run, the river course, making a ton of content this weekend. So make sure you're keeping up with the YouTube, keep up with our social medias at Big Drive Energy and Big Drive Energy Pod on Instagram. We'll have a lot of good stuff coming out for you, us hitting hopefully pretty decent golf shots. But we're going to talk today about the President's Cup. And, you know, I've obviously, I actually had other Mitch ask me in the office. He's like, is it like the Ryder Cup? And I was like, yeah, it is, but it doesn't have the juice. Is that how you feel? Like, it's pretty much the exact same format. The players are obviously on one side the same. The U.S. is U.S. versus everybody, apparently, in all these different cups, if you will. But the international team just doesn't seem to have as much juice. And I don't know if you've done a dive into the past of this, but have you seen what's happened in the President's Cup basically over the last 25 years, 26 years?
Yeah, I think we've just completely dominated the entire thing. Is that not correct?
Yeah. So the last time the international team won the President's Cup, Sungjae Im and Minwoo Lee were barely born, and Tom Kim was -3 years old.
Oh my God.
That's the last time the U.S. lost in the President's Cup to the international team. It was at Royal Melbourne Golf Club in 1998. Melbourne.
You got to say, yeah, there you go.
Melbourne. Royal Melbourne Golf Club in 1998. They've won 10 of the next 11, and they tied 17-17 in 2003. Real soccer vibes on that tie. But U.S. is on a 9-match winning streak, headed to Royal Montreal Golf Club in Canada. And so this is like a real, I'm not rooting for the U.S., but I'm also not.
I'm on the exact same page as you, dude. I'm honestly, I don't care who you are, who you root for. Excuse me. If a team loses often enough, eventually you're going to root for them to win. You know, and maybe that's not very American of us. Obviously, if we're not fully we want Americans to shove it down the internationals' throats like we have for the last 20 years. But I definitely want to see a little bit of a shakeup. And I honestly want the PGA Tour to kind of have to wake up and realize that this isn't just hee-haw with the fuck around gang. You know, this is a serious golf match. And even I was reading an article about Jason Day. I guess he hasn't played in it since 2017. And he said that he definitely noticed guys internationally checking out, kind of going through the motions, not really taking it as seriously as they could. And he said it started to get to him too. But he said with all this new blood, all these younger kids on the President's Cup, he said it's got a totally different vibe now. And he said everyone's a little bit more amped up and a little bit more ready to do it. So, you know, if there was any year, especially with no LIV players, if there's any year where the internationals had a really good chance, it would probably be this year. So I definitely think the U.S. needs to be on upset alert. You know, if they come in casual, which it doesn't sound like Jim Furyk. I don't know if you saw any of that presser. I guess he was like cussing and kind of getting fired up. So which I can never see Jim Furyk doing. but I definitely think that he realizes what position the U.S. team is in, and if they come in soft and just thinking it's going to be a walk in the park, then they're going to get beat. Like it is a real possibility.
Yeah, 100%. And I think when you're looking at, if you're trying to garner the, what's the word for care? Like the fire in the bellies of these players and try to figure out who wants it the most. I think you have to look at the newer blood of the international team as well as the guys that, even like a Jason Day, where in reality, when you look at the international team, because everybody talks about the Ryder Cup, we led with a buddy asking me what's different about this than the Ryder Cup, and really, it's the other team. It's the international team is a completely different set of players from a different, they have to have different standards of where they're from and blah blah blah. We don't want to get into that because I don't want to talk about where people are from and apparently where they're allowed to play for Olympics or whatever it ends up being. I'd rather stay out of that combo. But so looking at this year's international team, you've got guys like Tom Kim, Sungjae M, Siwoo Kim, Minwoo Lee, Hideki, Adam Scott, guys that are all very solidified PGA Tour players. But to those guys, this is their Ryder Cup because they have to watch the Ryder Cup as fans because they can't play in it. And so they would appear to be the guys that really care the most. Now, if you're doing a level of who cares, you can't really say how much like a guy like Scottie Scheffler and Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele give a shit because they've played in so many Ryder Cups and had those crazy moments in Ryder Cups that really matter to them, and where this ranks on their worries in terms of the golf world. But looking at the American team, guys like Max Homa, who has been in Ryder Cups, Sahith Theegala. I think the American with the most to play for this week is Sahith Theegala because he's been left off Ryder Cup teams. He's kind of still bursting onto the scene, hasn't like won a ton on the PGA Tour yet, but he's a guy that could make a statement this week of like, all right, for the United States team, this is almost like a feeder and exhibition game of like international competition leading up to the Ryder Cup. But for the international team, this is our biggest deal. This is for all those guys like Hideki. This is what they're, Adam Scott, this is what they live to play for.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a stat that I think Adam Scott's been playing in this for like over 20 years, and he's never, obviously, we talked about earlier, the last time the international team won one, Adam Scott has never won a President's Cup, and he's been around for 20 plus years, which is insane to think about. But we actually discussed this. I feel like it was just a random pod a few weeks ago or a month or so ago. But when you think about the dynamic of the European team versus the international team, I think they're set up to fail even more. I think that's a big difference between the European Ryder Cup team and the International President's Cup team is all these international players come from different walks of life. You've got South Koreans, you've got Japanese, you've got Australians, you've got South Africans, you name it. South Africa is not, that is not included. I didn't know if that it was included in Europe, but it is not. I just recalled that because Trevor Immelman is one of the assistant captains for the international team, and he's South African. But there's just so many different walks of life that these guys come from that they don't all like culturally hang out. Like you look at the European Ryder Cup team, 70 to 80% of those dudes are from Scotland, Ireland, or the UK. And so they all grow up playing together. They're seeing each other in matches. They're playing in the same stuff together. But I don't think a dude from South Korea and a dude from Australia, and another one from South Africa, they're probably not seeing a whole lot of each other in junior golf or when they're coming up in the ranks as young professionals. So I think they just have a leg back. Good God, I'm just fucking spewing at this point. I think that they just don't have the team camaraderie that the European Ryder Cup team has, and that makes it even more challenging. And on top of it, you add a language barrier where some of them don't even speak the same language. And like, how do you make that work? How do you come together to, make that happen and make this team feel like one whole team together. So I honestly, what do you, this sounds almost disrespectful to the international team, but I almost think an all Australian team would have a better shot against the American team than like the internationals, or even just a South Korean team. I know that sounds crazy, or, but just any group of dudes from the same country. South Africans, like, have a whole group of team from South Africa or whatever, because I think there's just such a cultural split between all these different countries around the rest of the world that it's just hard for these guys to be teammates.
Yeah, and looking at the 2022 President's Cup versus 2024. So 2022, it was actually when LIV players were already banned. I didn't realize that because Cameron Smith was the number one qualifier for the President's Cup in 2022. It's based on a point system, and he had 17, almost 18 points. The next closest guy was Hideki with 8. So that's how much Cam Smith puts
Oh, well, that's
into,
when he won the Open Championship and all that.
exactly. And then Joaquin Niemann was number 4 on that list. So both of those players were converted into captain's picks for 2022. Now 2024, they're not playing again because of the 2-year run up of them not getting any points, essentially. But maybe looking into 2026, 2 years from now, we'll have a little bit more of a formidable international team. But I do agree with you. I think a one country, from a standpoint of a team aspect, would have a better chance. But really, when you're looking at it, how many golfers can compete inside the lines, if you will, in between the tees? I don't know. Is there a golf term for that? Between the tees?
I don't think
Inside
so.
the ropes, maybe?
There you go.
Yeah,
I
once they...
actually, if I'm being dead honest, I just completely forgot that South America even existed. When I was like naming different international countries, totally forgot about one of the continents in the world. So that's on me. We've had our geographic issues in the past; those continue. But yeah, then you look at dudes like Mito Pereira and Joaquin Niemann, and I mean all these different. You could take. How about like South America versus North America? That would be, I mean, that would have some juice, I think.
Do you think there's enough players from South America to make a team, like legitimate players?
If you go South America and Central America, if you include like Mexico and stuff, I think you would have a very good team. If you have Carlos Ortiz, there's plenty of players from Mexico and Central America. Abram Anser is in there. Who's the other PGA Tour guy that wears pins that I'm just now spacing the name of?
Rafa Campos.
There we go, Rafa Campos. Thank you. I thought that was gonna look real bad. But yeah, there's plenty of like South Americans that could play in this as well. So I think we need to expand as golf becomes more global and more popular. Obviously I love the Ryder Cup. That's the best event in all of golf. But what if there was like 2 team events a year? What if we added a team event? Because I would like to see the international team versus the European team from the Ryder Cup. That would be good. And then maybe the US plays it could be like a that if we were going to go in a team direction like LIV, I would almost want it to see it. I would want to see it country by country. Like that shit, I think would be sick.
Yeah, can you imagine how much backlash that would get? I think it would be an awesome event once they put it on. But if the PGA Tour came out with an event that was like the 4 best Americans, the 4 best South Koreans, the 4 best North Koreans, the 4 best Irish, the 4 best from England, the 4 best from... that would be an incredible event, I think, as like you'd have to set it up not Mickey Mouse style, like LIV.
Would it almost be the Olympics?
Oh yeah,
Are we just describing the Olympics right now?
Maybe we are. I guess that's a really good point. But the Olympics doesn't have the full team aspect. It has like if LIV had like 3 solid teams and then a bunch of free agents. That's kind of what it would look like.
Here's an idea. Then you throw in both genders. You get female and male, maybe top 2 males and females from America versus top two, South Africans, top two, England, Ireland, Korea, that would be an event I would definitely watch. There is one DP World Tour event called the Scandinavian Mixed where it's individual stroke play, so it's no teams, obviously, but it's females and males. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked to see the PGA Tour adopt something like that here soon, because I think that would be really cool to have an actual tour event with females and males competing together, because there's still definitely a group of dudes that think that if they played the red tees, they could play on the LPGA Tour. A few guys come to mind from Twitter, just off the top of my head, that would definitely be in the group of, oh, if I was playing from 5,500 yards, I'd shoot 20 under. So there's definitely a group of guys like that too. So I think combining women, and we're talking about the President's Cup, so we're definitely off on a tangent here. But combining women and men would definitely give all the other men that think they could do this a different perspective. Like, they're playing the same course. Sure, it's maybe 1,000 yards shorter, but they're still shooting 12, 15 under par relative to your, 76 at your home club. That shit's not going to get it done.
No, it is absolutely not going to get it done. All right, let's talk a little bit about the golf course, Royal Montreal. And do you have a weather report for us? And do you have a French accent ready to go?
I honestly tried it multiple times.
You talked
But it's just,
yourself in the mirror?
I'm not going to be able to get through it. It's, oui is all I've got. That's all I can do in French. So I'm going to do the other side. I'm going to do an American accent. So it's going to sound like this. But Montreal this week, we've got tomorrow 69, nice. 85% chance of rain, going to be a wet one. 69 wet, wild. Going to be a rip-roaring day in Montreal. I also, off subject, but I heard Montreal's got the best strip clubs in the world, so they love that weather up there. Friday, also 69. Again, just sliding into the weekend with 69, sunny. Saturday, 71. Sunday, 73. So pretty ideal, jacket on, jacket off in that 69 weather is going to be the perfect setup for these guys. Early in the morning, there's going to be some dew on the grass, and then it's going to burn off later in the afternoon. And hopefully the Europeans, not the Europeans, right when I said that, I knew it was wrong. The international team, hopefully they see Sunday, because there has actually been years where the singles matches almost do not matter. So I think we'll definitely have a different scenario this year. But that history says that it doesn't bode well for the international team.
Yeah, it's a real David versus Goliath matchup, but has almost, like we talked about earlier, pushed me to the other side. They did talk about this. 2019, that President's Cup, there was the international team was leading going into Sunday, and then the United States ended up winning 8-4 on Sunday to win the President's Cup by 2 points. But there's a quote, or let me find it here.
Wait, real quick, Spence. I was just going to tell you, you better watch yourself rooting for international teams, because you might get unfollowed on Twitter now.
Yeah, that may set me off and lose me some of my precious Twitter X followers. So back in 2019, Ernie Els introduced a black and gold shield to try to unite the national team. And even Mike Weir, so here's a quote from Mike Weir: "It's something that's been a challenge for our teams over the years. What we created in 2019 with the shield, and a lot of things we implemented team-wise, team dinners, guys playing practice rounds together, getting together with one another a lot more. The gap has shrunk quite a bit. These guys really interact with each other a lot more. We have all these cultural differences, not that they don't have differences too, but ours is just some cultural things. It's gotten a lot better, and our guys have a great vibe going. I like where our team is at right now." And I think the other cool thing, looking at this President's Cup, obviously it's right now it's in a vacuum with the team they've got, but looking at the roster and how young a lot of the guys are, save for an Adam Scott and maybe a Mackenzie Hughes, who's a lot older than I thought he was, but Canadian. There's 3 Canadians on the team, so hopefully those guys really have some some country power behind them. The international team is shaping up to hopefully be something that makes this more competitive in 2026 and beyond, and really boosts it up to, it's never going to be the Ryder Cup, but it has a chance to be something that people are really making appointment watch television for. Like if there's guys like the Minwoo Lees and Tom Kim and Siwoo Kim and Sungjae Im, like the younger dudes, if they continue to play in these President's Cups for the next 6-7 events, it's going to be a team that's a little more, you're only together once every 2 years for a week and a half. But I do think they can build some team chemistry. It's almost like a rebuilding team in American Professional Sports League. They've got the pieces now because the team, talent-wise, is really good. It's still outmatched by the United States team. So the average world ranking for the United States team is 12.4. The lowest ranked player is in the official world golf ranking, which is subject to whatever you think about it at this point without LIV players. Who's the lowest ranked American?
I'd have to say Brian Harman.
Max Homa at 25.
Oh, okay. Okay, I was going to say, I guess because Brian Harman won the Open last year, so he's still riding those points off into the sunset.
And then who is the lowest ranked international team golfer? 61 in the world.
Siwoo Kim?
Mackenzie Hughes, actually.
Oh, yeah, okay. That really, Mackenzie Hughes is, I guess Taylor Pendrith has won more recently, but that's kind of shocking that Mackenzie Hughes is that far out. I still just feel for Nick Taylor. Like the fact that he's not on the squad is disgusting to me.
Nick Taylor and Adam Hadwin, both Canadians. Adam Hadwin hasn't played as well as Nick Taylor has played, but after Nick Taylor basically got a tournament named after him and a logo put after him in Canada, not even a calendar year ago, I feel like that's kind of a slap in the face to him. And Mackenzie Hughes was the pick. He was a captain's pick. That was basically, you can't say it because they put all the picks out together, but he was 12 of 12. He was the last guy picked on the playground for sure. And Nick Taylor was left on the cutting room floor. Let's talk a little bit about
that's insane to me.
Let's talk a little bit about the golf club. Scottie Scheffler actually had some comments regarding the golf club, and I saw a tweet and it was like, it's pretty basic, about as straightforward as you can get. And then the next quote line was, really what you want from a major championship, major event type of level.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely, and even everybody from Canada chimed in on this as well, saying there was so much better golf in the area that they could have taken this event. And there's just a lot of politics whenever there's international events like this that go into it, who runs the Royal Montreal Golf Club and all of that. But there was definitely some quotes out there about Sahith Theegala saying, I wouldn't call it forgettable, but it's pretty straightforward, not a whole lot to it. So yeah, like you said, you do not want to hear that out of any player's mouths when they're playing an international event like this. And somebody replied and goes, in a team event like this, does the layout really matter? And somebody replied and goes, yeah, the whole goal of golf is for the course to challenge the players. So I would say the layout definitely matters a little bit. Like, it was just pretty funny. I mean, realistically, if you were going to pick a shitty venue for anything, I guess this is the place to do it, because obviously you want a course set up more for match play, but you are directly playing your opponent. So if it's easy for everyone. If it's hard for everyone. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day if these guys shoot 10 under or even par or over par. If they beat their opponent, they beat their opponent. So I guess this is kind of the place to do it. But yeah, ultimately I would have liked them to go in a different direction with it. I know this is pretty far-fetched and doesn't logically make sense, but up in Nova Scotia, there's a few really good golf courses called Cabot Links and Cabot Cliffs. That is probably the best. That's like the Canadian version of Bandon. So obviously I don't know if they would think about hosting anything like that here in America. But Cabot would be just an unbelievable venue. Even other places in Ontario or Quebec, Like where they had the Canadian Open this year looked like a really good track. And then you go out west into Canada and you've got all the mountain courses that are awesome. And you go on to Vancouver and you've got the Pacific Northwest type of courses. So there's just a lot of really good golf. And I almost feel like Royal Montreal is it's the equivalent of like playing in rural Ohio here in America. It just doesn't really have much to it. There's not a lot of character. Kind of, I wouldn't call Quebec the Midwest, and I'm not super familiar with Canada, but definitely wouldn't be on the top of my list for venues for this event. So
yeah, and any course in Canada is just cool to me because we haven't played golf there, so I'm gonna enjoy the golf course for what it is. But I also think that that may help the international team a little bit. Maybe if it's an easier, more straightforward course, because they're not getting a chance to see it over the United States team. There's no home course advantage here like there would be in a Ryder Cup on international soil, like especially with the crowd. So I'm really hoping that the crowd and a lot of the international team players, like their families and people from those countries, are super into the President's Cup from their realm, so that they can help get they need all the help they can get at this point. And it would be really cool to see at least an intense match coming down. We are going to do a live show on Sunday towards the end of it, and it would be cool to see the fact that those single matches do matter. And the way you like you said, there's been some Sundays that literally you didn't even have to play it, but it is cool because on a Sunday there's 8 singles matches. You can get a total of 8 points. So realistically, as long as the international team keeps it close through Saturday, you're saying there's a chance on Sunday is basically what it boils down to.
Oh, absolutely. And that's all you can ask for, is to have it be competitive going into Sunday. Real quick, did you see what I sent you for the merch that they've done for this, for the President's Cup?
Yeah, so they're really into the hockey vibe. That's awesome. That's what a way to sell merchandise.
Right? They're selling like US, like actual hockey sweaters, USA and international, and then they're doing some different hockey themed like cartoon stuff. The gear looks awesome. Like I don't know how much money I would spend. I mean, I was about to say hockey gear. Every single tournament now, like at the BMW at Castle Pines, they were selling hats for fucking $50. Some hats up as high as $90. So you're getting a t-shirt that's $70, a hoodie that's $130. So I can only imagine those hockey sweaters are probably like 250 Canadian, which is basically like $100 US. So that's helpful. But that's a joke. Did you get that, Spencer?
Yeah, you're basically devaluing the Canadian money a ton.
Thank you. I mean, the fact that I felt I had to explain it kind of made it lame, but I would definitely get one of those hockey jerseys. Those things look sick.
Yeah. Also, some other notes regarding the fashion for this week. There's a lot of cool stuff on President's Cup Instagram, PGA Tour Instagram. The players that get to play in these obviously have such a good setup clothing wise, and there was a picture of. They didn't say whose room it was, but when you got to your room as an American player, you had all these different hats, shirts, shoes, just the whole bit. I think that's a really cool aspect of, these guys aren't Make-A-Wish guys. They're professional PGA Tour / whatever tour players that are making a lot of money. But the idea that you get that, like I am not rich, so I can't quantify this, but no matter how rich I got, I'd still get my rocks off of free shit like that and like cool little like goodie bags. So that was cool to see all the different stuff that they got, USA branded, of course. And you did send me this yesterday. Scottie Scheffler needs to find his own hat because he is 0-5-3 in either a flat bill or a rope hat in the President's Cup and Ryder Cup combined. So Scottie Scheffler, I don't care what, maybe go Patrick Cantlay no hat. That would be quite the sight for the top of his dome, but he needs to find a different hat because yeah, realistically, if Scottie Scheffler doesn't win a match, I still don't think it gives the international team the best chance. But if the number one player in the world and the most dominant golfer on the planet right now doesn't win a match, that at least makes everything a little bit more fun to watch and competitive.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. On the topic of Scottie's hair, I have a picture right here. I'll just show it because I don't have time to send it. But look at there we go. Look
Oh,
at
that's
Scottie's hairline, not good. And Brant Snedeker looks like a completely different human being. Like
yeah,
I don't
without a
even
hat.
know. Yeah, but I think we could be on Scottie shaving the head watch.
Well, look right here.
Yeah,
See how
looking
that's
good,
almost like the
Barry.
same in this lighting with whenever there's like a really hard light on the top of my head, I look straight up bald. So not good, but
But that's honestly what if you shave Scotty's head, I bet it would look pretty close to what yours looks like.
thank
So
you.
we could no, and not in a bad way. Like you look good with a shaved head. So not to tire pump the boys here, but I think you look better with a shaved head than that fucking rat's nest you had up there for a while. But
Some
I
people
would
have said that they miss the mullet out loud. I've had that probably 5 or 6 times. So
they miss it because you're like a cartoon character. Them saying they miss it and saying you don't look good are two different things.
oh man. All right, that's messed up. Let's get to some predictions. First of all, give me a score prediction, and then we have our graphic for some of our bets for this weekend. Final score prediction for the President's Cup. Go.
So it's 14 to retain,
Yep.
14 and a half to win.
30 total points available.
30 total. Oh, so it's 15 to retain.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. 30 total points available. I think we need I'm going to go with an upset here. I'm going to go internationals 16 and a half to 13 and a half for the Americans. I might get a lot of hate for it. Obviously, water finds its level at some point. The U.S. has been riding high on the hog for a while now. You know, they might be coming in a little holly jolly. Just maybe they're out at the strip clubs enjoying themselves a little too much out in Montreal. You know, Scottie Scheffler really strikes me as a strip club type of dude. So no, I don't. Honestly, okay, this is a good hypothetical non-golf. If you had to pick one dude on the American team that would go to the strip club, who would it be?
Brian Harmon, for sure.
Dude, there really doesn't seem like there's a single dude on the American team. Maybe Sam Burns. He's kind of a fratty type of guy. There's just so many of those dudes do not strike me. I can see some international.
Russell Henley.
I could see Russell Henley like a nice whiskey bar, like a high end. You know, he's wearing a nice Q-zip and some what would you call those? I was gonna say clogs. What the fuck? They're not slippers. What am I thinking here?
Day
We wore them
shoes,
in your wedding.
boat shoes. Loafers.
Loafers. There we go. Thank you. Holy shit, I could not remember that. But I could see like Tom Kim getting excited to go to the strip club. He seems like a young, spry dude that's really just up for all that life has thrown at him.
Yeah, the international team is just a big bunch of wild cards when it comes to like off the golf course, semi on the golf course too.
Hideki Matsuyama, I could see being really into it too for some reason.
Yeah, he could be like the biggest gambler / strip club guy in the world, but you'd never really know it until you just saw him out there. They're just full of wild cards.
We need like a European correspondent that's actually seen these dudes in their native ways, like what they do with their free time.
We get real boots on the ground. We'll just hit up all the strip clubs and
I guarantee you, Kiradek Affy Barnrat would be hitting the strip club for sure if he was out in Royal Montreal. I'm not kidding you. Like that is a thing. People travel from all over the world just to go to Montreal for strip clubs.
Well, I'm glad good thing you can't go to Canada for a hot minute. I'm going to go with my prediction of 16-14 United States team. I think it'll come down to the last 5 matches of the day. I think it'll be close, and then you're going to have your horses, your Schauffele's, Schefflers, etc. down at the stretch playing at the very end of Sunday, just kind of coming in and dominating. And I hope we get really good singles matchups in terms of sometimes there's some strategy between sending your worst players out. This is very different when we're talking about like a Spring Valley Ryder Cup that we used to play in when you got an actual like 30 handicap playing. But like all these guys are professionals and very good. But I do hope they give us like the Scottie versus Hideki or something like that on Sunday, where it's like strength on strength. Schauffele maybe versus Adam Scott. Those are some pairings that I'd like to see in the singles matchup. And then we actually have some picks here as well. So here are our picks from the Bet365 app. Of course, going with USA minus 250 is lame. We don't roll that way. So Mitchell had Sahith Theegala to hold the winning putt plus 1,600. So that could be, you know, I wonder if that bet's going to pay out if a conceded putt, like if he's the fourth or fifth matchup on Sunday and the United States wins, if a putt's conceded, if that still counts, or if he actually has to make the putt. So we'll find that out on Sunday.
I feel like there's a lot of red tape around that bet. Like even if Sahith made the final putt, I still wouldn't be convinced that I was going to get paid out on it. I don't know why. It just seems like one of those sketchy kind of picks where you're like, what do they consider the winning putt? Like, also real quick, I just realized I think Xander Schauffele would be the biggest strip club fan. Like I could see him. He's like the most freewheeling dude on the U.S. team for sure. Everybody else is basically married with kids. So I think Schauffele kind of rolls like Ricky Fowler, old school style. Like I think Ricky would have been into it too back in his day, which I respect him for. Now he's a family man. But give me your highest, your best American and worst American, and your best international player and worst international player this week.
Okay, so these are on the card if you look at it, but I have Xander Schauffele to be the top U.S. point scorer at plus 600, which is boosted on that Bet365 app for you from 550. And then I also have a 30% boost, and I used it on Adam Scott to be the top international team point scorer at plus 750, and then it's boosted, so it's like a unit to win 10.1 units. But so those are my two highest. I'm going to go Xander Schauffele and Adam Scott as highest scorers. For the United States lowest scoring player, I'm going to say that it's going to be Wyndham Clark. I think Wyndham Clark lowest scoring player is a little bit of the captain's pick. Like the captains can influence that, because if they don't play X amount of times, obviously they're not having chances to get points. Whereas if somebody plays and loses, they're also not getting points. So I think Wyndham Clark will be the lowest United States player. And then European-wise, I'm going to go with Taylor Pendrith. I think Taylor Pendrith will be the lowest scoring European international team player.
It's so hard not to do it, man. It's hard not to fuck that up. Okay, so U.S. team, best U.S. player. I'm going to say Captain America, Keegan Bradley. This dude is fired up, coming off of being snubbed from the Ryder Cup team, then being announced as next year's Ryder Cup captain, and earning his way onto this team this year. I think
Ryder
he
Cup
could just
captain,
go
the Ryder Cup
scorched earth.
captain for next year is going to have a real good eye on what Keegan's doing this week.
Yeah, no shit. He's going to be like, do I like my game? What's going on? So I'm going Keegan Bradley for the top U.S. point getter. And honestly, I think Brian Harman's going to have a really good week too. Like there's just certain, I know it sounds wild, but I think SEC guys are just more built for this shit. Like I get just hardcore American vibes. Like they're really, truly proud to be Americans. So I think guys like Brian Harman, Russell Henley, Scottie Scheffler. I mean, Scheffler, as long as he doesn't go row pat, but then guys from California, just not a vibe for me. Like you give me Patrick Cantlay, other than Xander, because he's just too good. But Cantlay and Morikawa are just not like very America vibes to me. I don't know. They don't strike me as super patriotic because they live in California, and I don't think anyone that lives in California loves America. I'm just kidding. That's
a great take.
Yeah. Hey, not super far off. And then for the internationals, I think Sungjae Im is going to be their top point getter. The dude is playing phenomenal golf. He's been playing good golf, and I don't see him slowing down. And then, I could see Christian Bezuidenhout coming out and putting up a stinker. I could see him really just pissing down his leg. He's pretty irrelevant in my mind. And now I say that, and he's going to win every single match he plays in. But there's definitely some stronger guys. I feel like Minwoo Lee is going to come out fired up. I feel like he's kind of the locker room guy on this U.S. team. Or on this, good God, I can't say international team. I either say European or fucking U.S. Minwoo Lee on the international team is like the locker room guy. And then you've got your veterans like Hideki Matsuyama, Adam Scott. And I think Tom Kim's also a locker room guy as well. And then Jason Day is going to be a big vet.
So basically the whole international team he just listed is big vets.
I did not name Siwoo Kim, Taylor Pendrith, Corey Connors, Ben On, or Siwoo Kim. So go fuck yourself.
Siwoo Kim twice.
Pally.
Well, enjoy the President's Cup this weekend. That wraps it up for us on this Big Drive Energy Wednesday edition. Make sure you're following us on all the socials at Big Drive Energy on Twitter and TikTok, Big Drive Energy Pod on Instagram. We've got a lot of content coming for you from us. Not only for this President's Cup, we'll be live on Sunday afternoon as it wraps up, but we will be in Wisconsin these next couple of days. We'll be in Wisconsin Thursday through Saturday, getting some golf content, playing some phenomenal courses. We're going to be recording a ton of content, TikToks, videos, all that good stuff. So make sure you're following along on all the socials. If you're watching this on YouTube, give us a thumbs up on your way out. We'd appreciate it. Subscribe to our channel, Big Drive Energy Golf. That's it for us. We'll go play some amazing golf these next couple of days. You guys do whatever you're doing. Enjoy your weekend. Watch the President's Cup, and we'll talk to you on Sunday. Peace.
Peace. We all silly like the mayor.